can we do that? Like, that sounds a little bit crazy, because that day it was actually warm. It was only minus 15 degrees.
Only.
Better than minus 30, where you go out and you literally feel your face freezing. Now,
Wild Rose! Wild Rose!
Yes, welcome, beautiful Vivi, to our podcast. This is going to be amazing. You are amazing. We are big fans of yours. And what we do to begin our podcast is we have awkward question time. Hashtag awkward question time. And we ask a question just to get in to get to know you a bit more, and it's a little bit fun too. So, Paula, what was our question for today?
I have a really great question for us today, Vivi, to answer.
Uh-oh.
Well, we all get to answer it. So it's not just you, but you get to go first because you're our guest.
Yes.
that's the worst.
So my question today is, what is your most embarrassing travel story?
Oh my goodness. That's a really hard one.
I could share mine first if you want a minute to
go
think about it,
first,
because I know you are, I mean, it's extraordinary how much you have traveled. So you're probably like, oh my gosh, what's the most embarrassing thing that I can think of right now? So I'll share mine because I was thinking about it just before. When we did the lap of Australia, we went into a lot of remote places around Australia that was off-road and, you know, nothing, no resources or anything. When we got to northern Queensland before we did Cape York, I invested in what's called a sheepy. Do you have those in Canada? Okay, so a sheepy, it sounds like it could be possibly an Australian invention, but it's like a funnel into a bottle so females can pee standing up.
Oh, I've seen these things. Yeah,
they could be called something else in other countries, but anyway, I bought one of those mainly because obviously there's a lot of bush peas that will have to go on, right? Because there's nowhere to pee in a lot of places. And also my daughter was like, whenever we're like, okay, we just have to do a bush wee, she's like, no, I refuse. So I was like, okay, at least this way we can stand up. We don't have to like feel vulnerable and like, anywho. So the most embarrassing time that I used my sheep was we were actually in Kakadu, and we had to drive down this corrugated road. Like, it was so bouncy to get out to Gunlum Falls, which is like one of the most beautiful places to go in Kakadu. And we were camping out there for the night. And so we had to go along this corrugated road to get out there. And the road, it looks like, if you look up the map, it's kind of like, oh, that should take us about 40 minutes. But because it's corrugated, it takes like twice as long to drive. And we were also towing our caravan as well. So it was taking forever, and the corrugations, and I'm like, I need to pee.
Wow. Ouch.
I can't wait until we get to the campsite. Like this, like you're going up and down like constantly. I'm like, no, I need to pee. I need to pee. I'm like, okay, cool. So there's nowhere actually to go. So we just sort of like pulled over to the side of the road. And I had my car door open, the kids' car door open, and I pretty much just stood in between the two car doors facing my husband. I'm like, either look at me in the eyes or look away, like don't even. And so he's like, all right, I'll look away. So he was looking for oncoming traffic, and like two cars passed. But he's like, it's okay, they didn't see, I don't think.
I don't think.
Well, I didn't stop. So
oh man.
Yeah, I had, that was, and there was many times that I had to whip out the sheepy, but that was the most embarrassing time. It was bushland. There was bushland beside me, but it was like wild bushland with snakes and like wild pigs.
Oh yeah.
And, like, a whole bunch of stuff I don't even know. So
yeah, exactly.
I was like, no, I'm standing right here.
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine, out in the bush and peeing and you got something just biting your butt? No way.
That's the difference between like having a penis and not having a penis.
Exactly.
Like you can do it so discreetly and not like there's hardly any of your bits that are exposed. But I was just like, I don't feel very safe doing that in outback Australia. And also the other thing is I'm like, it's kind of gross. Like at least you can well, it's kind of gross that you've bottled it up and you're now taking it with you, but at least you can like dispose of it later and you're not peeing in the bushland everywhere. That was amazing.
I'm sure it absorbed it.
Funny. I remember mine.
And you remember yours? Yay.
I kind of think all these stories are gonna end up in like toilet stories.
Yeah.
But I remember this one time, the first time we went to China, I was like maybe 12 years old. I really had to go to the bathroom and we were out in the middle of Peking, just like a random small little like town. Like it was just like it was not a town, but a small part of Peking. And I really had to go. And they have these public washrooms everywhere. So I went in Chinese washrooms, they don't have these like separated little corners where you don't see everyone else. It's all open. Yeah. So you literally have like 5 holes in the ground and you just take a hole and other people are literally sitting next to you. Now, me not being Chinese, I was literally like the highlight of all these other people in the washroom, and everyone just stared at me at like how this foreigner is now going to pee.
Oh my
I've
goodness.
Years, I'm like, wow, like everyone is looking at me.
And especially being like a 12-year-old kid, like it would have been even more fascinating because they're like, this person hasn't lived much lifetime. Like,
no.
Is she going to figure it out? Oh my goodness.
It's just so funny when everyone just stares at you, and Chinese people are that kind of personality. They just come to you and take a picture with you. They don't even like ask you anything. They just come, give you a hug, they take a picture with you. They're super friendly, but they're also like not really socially aware, so they just stare and they just
wow.
like, what's going on there? You're like, nothing else than what's going on with you.
No.
Maybe they were making sure that you weren't going to fall in, that they didn't have to come and save you.
Yeah, they could have just been braced. Like, all right, if she goes in, like,
we're going to have to save her.
Like...
Oh my goodness. Story. Oh my God, what is yours, Shonah?
It's not real. It's embarrassing, but it is embarrassing, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not newsworthy embarrassing, but it's kind of, it's very toilet orientated. Sorry for everyone listening. This is all about toilets today. But because I'm hopeless, like I have a thing. So I get stage fright, right? So just when we stayed in Vietnam, you know how we stayed in Airbnbs and we had, basically we like we're amongst it. We didn't go 5-star resort. We went into, it was really, really beautiful. And they were gorgeous places. But the one thing I struggled with, and we were staying with my brother and his husband, and I struggled because you can't flush the toilet paper down the toilets because you can't. So wipe and put it in the bin beside you, like I know you can't see this, like a plastic, like a wire basket like this. Sorry, you can't see. I'm holding up a wire basket that you would put in an office, but it's for the toilet paper that you've just wiped yourself on, right? I could not handle it. I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. We're going to have to go and find a shit bag, I called it. So my brother and I, because he's the same as me, we have a phobia, like we just can't handle it. So, you know, like if I'm in a motel room with people, I just like, I have to go down to the foyer. I cannot, you know, anyway. So I'm so I'm walking around Vietnam and I've got my translator going on, trying to find a shop that would sell like plastic bags that we could put and tie knots in. But basically you have to take your rubbish with you. So for 4 days, I've got all these little tied up bags, right? And when we were leaving, we had to leave the Airbnb and, you know, as we found it. So I'm like to my brother, we're packing, we're like, okay, we got this, we've got the suitcases, we've got the shoes. And then we're like, have we got the shit bags? Because we had to take them with us. and then we took all our rubbish down and sort of out through the lane where we were staying. There was a big skip bin out on one of the main roads, and like it's just mental there. Like it's traffic everywhere. It's so beautiful. I would go there 1,000 times a year if I could. That's not even possible. But anyway, you know where I'm going with that. Anyway, we went and we took our rubbish and we put it in this big skip bin thing. And then straight away, a lady came out and she was going through our rubbish and was like, and I'm like, oh, don't open the shit bags. Don't open the shit bags. Like, it was just because they recycle shampoo things and, you know, just go through. And yeah, so that was like, I just had to turn and just walk away. It's just like, I couldn't do. So
Oh, imagine seeing how she opens the shit bag and puts her hand in.
I know. Unbelievable. So, so that's, yeah, it was definitely an eye-opener, man. I would take the in the bush any day, Australian bush any day over that.
A sheep pee in the bush versus a shit bag. Oh my God.
Did you ever actually have to shit in a bag?
No.
Have you?
Have you? Oh, tell us the story.
Everyone's just staring at me. Can we not publish this episode? This is going places I did not plan.
You don't have to give us details, but where were you? Like,
Yeah.
what country? What was the circumstance?
We were in a caravan and we didn't have a bathroom.
Yeah.
And we were in big cities, Eastern Europe. And well, if you know, there's not always a bathroom around.
No,
so
there's
we're
not.
camping. I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? We don't have a washroom in our camper, and you can't really. Well, we had a toilet, but we didn't want to like shit in the toilet because there's not proper disposals in all Eastern European countries. So pee, you can just like, you know, dispose of it at any like side of the road, but you don't want to have the shit, you know.
No one wants to shit on the road.
With pee and rain, it kind of like flushes itself away into nature. It's not a big deal, but shit is not like the same. So what are you gonna do? Like, you shouldn't do that. I think I've never shared that story.
It's so funny because like travel life, it seems like it can be so romantic and it can be so adventurous and it can be so like just mind-blowingly beautiful, but then at the same time, there's so many things that you usually wouldn't have to deal with that you have to deal with.
Exactly.
And having a creative way of being able to solve problems, we found, was like something you had to quickly develop because stuff can happen, things can change so quickly that you're like, okay, how do we deal with this now? Like, not the usual thing. So I totally get that. Yeah.
So this is cool because we are, in case anyone hasn't noticed, we are talking to a travel queen here. We got past the shit stuff and the pee stuff. But Vivi, like you are like this is your jam, right? Traveling's your jam. You have written multiple books. You help people all over the world fill their traveling cups. Tell us about what you do.
I do all sorts travel related.
Awesome.
Literally anything from travel planning to helping people how to overcome the fears of actually going out traveling, teaching them how to plan for themselves, all the fears that go behind and really going out and actually enjoying their experiences. Because one thing that I found, especially lately, is that we get so used to just going with what everyone tells us we should enjoy, right? We think like, oh,
Yeah.
we should go to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower, and we should go to Rome and visit the Colosseum and all the beautiful things and eat pizza and ice cream. But maybe that's not actually what you really enjoy, and there's something else that you would enjoy, but we
Mm.
just go with the stereotypes with what we think we should enjoy.
Yeah.
And there's so much that we can learn from actually looking at who we are and what we really enjoy and traveling in that way that is much more powerful and that really transforms who we are much deeper than just, oh, let's just look at the 10 best things to do in Vietnam and follow it. And, there's
Mhm.
still amazing things to do, but there's
Yeah.
also more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why we need the people like you to steer us in that direction, because sometimes it's really hard to find the information to
Yeah.
know what else there is. Also about safety, like you said, some people, like helping people to actually overcome their fears to travel, it's very real, very real. And I know people that won't go outside of Australia just because it's uncertain, because it's the unknown. And if they put themselves out of their comfort zone perhaps to get there, I know that they would have an amazing time. And obviously no two holidays are the same, things happen all over the world. But yeah, that's really, really cool work. I love that.
Thank you. And the funny part is there are so many people that are scared to go into Australia because of all the dangerous animals.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
But that's something I was petrified of, being an Australian and doing the lap of Australia with my family in a caravan. I was just like, there is so much wildlife that can kill us. There are so many things.
Yeah, there is.
And there's so many places where, there's no phone coverage or service. And, the landscape is so like barren, and there's just so many different things that could happen. Like there's so many, especially in a lot of these places where there isn't reception, like there's a lot of like brown snakes and crocodiles, like things that could really, really kill you, and quite quickly. So it's like, what do you do to prepare yourself to feel safe enough to do it? And even, it's so funny, like the fear leading up to traveling around that stuff was so heightened, and to almost to the point, like I'd have these days where I'm like, we can't do this. Like, this is so dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, why? But then when you're actually in it and you're doing it, the fear is like, there are moments where you can feel that fear again, but it's always heightened before you've actually done it. That's always when it feels the most intense. So while we were doing it, I've told stories on this podcast before about crazy stuff that we've done. And like my daughter and I had a moment, we were sitting on the side of this bushwalk up to this overlook type thing, and she was having this tremendous meltdown. And so we took a moment, we let the boys go ahead, and I said, let's sit down for a minute and take some deep breaths. And we sat there, we closed our eyes, we took some deep breaths. And afterwards she opened her eyes and she's like, oh, thanks, Mummy, I feel so much better. And then I opened my eyes and I saw this tail like wiggling away from us. And I was like, oh, that was close. And I was like, I wonder what that was. And a man was walking up as we were starting to stand up, and he was like, oh, that was a dugite. And I was like, I hadn't heard the name dugite before. I was like, oh, what's that? Like a lizard? And he's like, no, that's a brown snake. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, that was really close to you guys. I'm like, yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh.
Like there's been moments like that where you're like, whoa, that was like, that could have been bad.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, maybe because we were so like just calm,
Calm.
and
Yeah.
it kind of just went along its way, didn't feel any vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, don't they actually only attack when they feel scared?
Yeah, pretty
So
much. Yeah.
Yeah, snakes often just attack when they feel threatened, and it's usually that they usually attack when people accidentally step on them or come too close and don't actually see them. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a moment.
There was a moment.
That sounds so scary, but yeah, it
But
can
yeah,
happen.
other than that, Australia's awesome to travel.
Yes.
Don't be scared.
You know what? Actually, like if you like really prepare yourself in the anticipation, you have so much power to manifest and call in the experiences that you want, that if you focus on what you do want, you literally create it so effortless and so easily because you're looking at it and there's just like this pure desire and this pure joy and you're just so excited. And I find that is really the key. Like, yeah, there are a lot of things that can go wrong everywhere. You know, Australia, you have all the animals. Other countries are more like prone for like, I don't know, rape or theft or whatever it is. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It doesn't mean it's actually going to happen to you.
No.
But when we look at what we want, like we're not going to call these things in.
No, I found that when I would get into a state, especially before we traveled, and thinking about like all the possible things that could go wrong, especially when we were trying to figure out like what equipment we needed to take with us and all of that sort of stuff, was that I would, especially the animals, I think was like one of the biggest things for me. I was like, yeah, if any of us got hurt by an animal like that, I'm like, I don't know how I would deal under the pressure of that. What I would do to help in those situations was imagine us traveling harmoniously with the animals. Not that like trying to ignore that the animals are there or like wish that they weren't there and all of those things. Was just like, if there are like, there's going to be animals everywhere that we go. And we're going to have a harmonious experience with the animals. And that was one of the biggest things we were teaching our kids when we're traveling around. We were like, okay, these are the types of animals that are in this area. And you know, for safety reasons, because we don't want the animals to get upset or feel threatened by us, we want them to know that we are friends. And if they know we are friends, then they're going to be friendly. And that was like one of the biggest things that we took with us. So you're right. It's like, you know, thinking about how you want it to go rather than freaking out with all of the things that possibly could happen.
Yeah, it definitely takes away the anxiety. You know, it's interesting, you know, like I grew up in the outback, so the animal, like, you know, the snakes and stuff, we see them on our front veranda, like brown snakes, you know, in summer. So it's just, you know, it's just part of our day-to-day stuff. But for me to go to a foreign country was anxiety driven. Like it was a thing, you know. I just didn't know what to expect. I felt I needed to be close to the people I was traveling with because I was concerned for my safety, but it's just the unknown. And it really was, you know, leading up to leaving day, I couldn't sleep. I was just thinking at night what all the things that could go wrong. But it was I think the beauty part was that I was traveling with seasoned travelers, with my brother and his partner. Like, they travel, you know, twice a year before the pandemic, obviously. And I've got a question about that, actually. But, you know, just traveling with them and having them just so relaxed, it was just like, well, if they're relaxed, of course I can relax and just enjoy every single part of that country and culture and amazingness. So yeah, that was very much a thing of turning it around. And it can be so beautiful, and I could imagine for some people it would be hard to get out of that and to travel with the anxiety and not enjoy it so much, so not do it again, you know, which is it's a bit of a shame. I do want to ask about the pandemic, like your work. and helping people to travel. I know you've written lots of books in the last, I don't know, how long has it been, 6 months or whatever. Tell us about the books, but also for us Australians, like we can't go anywhere. But what's the feel? Like, does that change your work at all? Like, people can't actually just randomly travel wherever they want to now?
It changes not only my work, but also like my lifestyle, because I'm originally German, right? I got kind of stuck in Canada, and I'm going to end up accidentally immigrating to Canada if this goes on for a little bit, which
Oh,
I
wow.
plan to. But, why not? Just another adventure. That's really how you have to see it. And I know with one of the reasons why I've been writing these books is really to focus on, okay, what else can we do apart from traveling? Because my life was all the time like travel, 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 like who I was, my whole identity. And I know you do a lot of like identity stuff, so you know what I'm talking about, Shonah. Is really like, I'm a traveler. Like, I thrive and I'm moving. I thrive in new environments and new cultures, and like what makes me feel alive. And now I'm stuck in a town, Ottawa, capital of Canada, super boring, no mountains, no beach, no nothing. Like, it's a cute little government town, great, but like, now what?
Yeah.
So it's really this, for everyone that's in lockdown, or hopefully not going back into lockdown in the future, is really looking at what can we do at home, like the little things, either creating experiences at home. Like, you can also, especially if you have kids, but also if you have a partner, just camp inside the house. Like, that's something we did last year. It's always fun. You set up little twinkle lights, like, it's like little experiences that sometimes they sound really stupid, and you're like, are we really gonna do this? And then you're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this, we're gonna do it for the
Yes.
memory. You don't have to be
Yeah.
whatever, you
Yeah.
just go out and you just play. You go all, like, there's so many places around you that you have literally never seen, and they're like within 20 minutes to an hour if you're allowed to go that far, depending on which stage in lockdown you're in. You have a little bit of more freedom to go out and really explore these places. Google Maps always helps with just putting in your location and just looking at attractions.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
That's super easy, and it shows you a whole list of places around you. And I'm sure there's a bunch of places that you've never been.
Yeah. And I
That's
loved when you were doing the picnics out in the snow when it was winter. It's like,
Oh yeah, that
doing
was fun.
doing things like, you're like, oh, it's snowing outside, can't go anywhere, stuck in this town. It's like, you know what? Go have a picnic in the snow. Like, it's small things like that. And I even saw a friend, she posted a photo of her holding a chicken the other day, and she was like, she's an older woman. She's like, I've never held a chicken before. Like, I'm like, she's like, it's the small things. I'm like, I've never held a chicken before. Like, those sorts of things, even though like you're like that sounds like a really silly idea. It's like, hey, what do you want to go do today? Oh, let's go to a farm and hold a chicken. Yeah, yay, whoop-de-doo. But like,
Yeah.
Especially now where a lot of things are closed off to us.
Oh, yeah, look. Vivi's showing us a picture of her holding a chicken. Oh.
Last week.
That's so funny, because it's like the little things that we, that you sort of don't really think about or take for granted, or all of those things, because usually when it's like, I want an adventure, you think really big and really grand, and where can I go? Because right here is not an adventure, but it's really looking at like, how can right here be an adventure? What are the things that are like, something that might be very typical for somebody, like somebody who lives on a farm has probably held a chicken like a million times, and like, who hasn't held a chicken? And then there's, other people who are like, I've never literally held a chicken in my life. Like, I eat chicken and I've never had one. Like that to me seems a little bit messed up now that I'm thinking about it. Like,
That's right. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
really the little things, right? Like when we did the snow
Yes.
picnic, I'm like, can we do that? Like that sounds a little bit crazy because that day it was actually warm. It was only minus 15 degrees.
Only.
Only.
Better than minus 30 where you go out and you literally feel your face freezing. Now imagine it's like you have a week or two of minus 20, minus 30 degrees. You can't really go out much because after 20 minutes outside, like your feet are hurting so much you cannot walk anymore.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Everything inside is closed. Now it's pretty dark most of the day, right? It's winter time.
Mhm.
You have this like kind of like winter depression starting to kick in after a few months.
Yeah.
Great, what are we gonna do now? So you just have to come up with the little things and like, okay, what can we do? Travel from your computer. I know it's not the same. Research the new places that you want to visit. Plan the next trip for when you can. Do a picnic outside. Bake blindfolded. Like, just do the things you normally do
Oh,
in a different
that's
way.
cool.
Like get your
Yeah.
partner to get blindfolded or your kids and then play with it. Like, I know it sounds fucking stupid, excuse my language,
Oh, yeah.
but it's really like, it's really creating these memories in a different way.
Yes.
We set up our Christmas tree in May and we're like, okay, we're just gonna set up the freaking Christmas tree. We're gonna decorate the whole house. We're gonna have a Christmas in May. I'm like, yes, it sounds stupid. And you're gonna think like, are we really gonna do this? Like, you can put up all the freaking decoration, like it's work. I'm like, whatever. We're just gonna do it and we're gonna enjoy it. So a lot of times if you're not really putting your emotions in, it's not gonna be fun. But if you actually get over that point of like, I know it's stupid, it sounds stupid, but who cares? We're not doing it for all the other people. We're not doing it for anyone else but us. So put some music on, have some fun, and just enjoy it. Like, let's put that adult thing aside and just have fun.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I really feel like we should be sharing a house together. This sounds like amazing. Can we just be roomies? This is cool. This is good though, because a lot of us are, especially in our work, if we're working from home and we don't get to go to the office that we can go to work and stuff, is we are on a bit of a hamster wheel, and it is breaking the cycle. It's breaking the cycle for our kids. It's having the experiences and, like you said, the memories. And it doesn't have to be just travel. I actually did feel that I was ripped off because I had just found my feet with traveling and freedom, and I thought, and now I'm stuck. That's the feeling. That's my talk. Yeah. I'm stuck. But it's just changing the dynamics. It's changing the way we think, changing the perspective of it all. These are really good ideas, by the way. I'm stealing these for the kids. This is great.
Yeah,
that's awesome. How do you think not traveling has impacted who you are right now?
That's a really good question. I think it's definitely made me tap into my inner wild and freedom kind of feeling that I had, that I based the environment and my experiences to define who I was. And now I need, obviously, to be that person so that when I do get to have those experiences and stuff again, I'm already there. I'm already wild. I'm already free. It's just going to enjoy them. Even that's so much more, so much more.
Yeah.
That's for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. What about you, Paula? Coming back from the trip and going.
Yeah, because I was excited to go again.
Yeah.
And before we did the lap of Australia and before we had kids, Brennan and I had traveled overseas quite a few times. And that was always something that we, every time you travel and you come back, and it was always like let's not wait that long again before we travel again. But there was always this big gap. And when we did the lap around Australia, we were traveling for a year. So it was a long time. It wasn't a few weeks here, a few weeks there, what we were used to. And like my husband and I said to each other quite a few times, we were like, this has to be part of our new normal, like to do a lot of this, even because he was coming back to his job. And I mean, I can work anywhere, but it was like, you know, this can't be just it. And then we never do anything like this again. So it was always the plan of doing that more often, shorter trips, obviously, but then eventually, you know, go and do the lap again. And right now it's feeling like, oh, it feels very like a really long time until we can actually do that again. Because yeah, there are people traveling around Australia right now. There's a lot of people traveling around Australia right now. So my brother and sister-in-law lived in Darwin, and they've just recently moved from Darwin to WA. And yeah, on the roads, they're packed with people in caravans, like packed. He's like, you can't get sites anywhere and all this sort of stuff. So it doesn't feel like expansive and fun and adventurous right now to go traveling, because like we were used to traveling and just rocking up at a place and staying and then going, all right, we'll stay longer, cool. Whereas now, like everything has to be planned to a T well in advance to be able to get spots and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, for me, it's really coming back to, and this is what I did actually before we did the Lap of Australia. And I know that you talk about this in one of your books, Vivi, is about manifesting travel, right? And so before we did the Lap of Australia, this was like a big thing that I had to manifest it, because we were at a point in our lives where it didn't make sense to do. Like my business wasn't big enough to support us full time. And, you know, my husband's job was full time and he had to go into an office 9 to 5. And, you know, we had 2 small kids, and like, it just seemed like it was really impossible for us to do. So I was like, but I see us doing this and I really want to do it. So I don't know how, but I'm going to work on manifesting this and having it, you know, happen, which it did. And part of my process for doing that, which is something that I've really come back to again now that we are not traveling, is that when I take photos, because being a photographer, it's like, the more that I take photos, and I'm so well trained in it and I've been doing it for such a long time, is like I can easily slip into the mode of like, oh, I know how to take this photo and I know how to take this photo and I know where to go to take a great photo and I'll go there and all of that sort of stuff. But really going, okay, I'm going to go here and I'm going to pretend like this is the first time that I've been here. And I'm going to take photos as if I've never walked this beach before, as if I've never walked this path before, as if I've never been to this place before. And it really helped me to get really present in places, especially before we went traveling. Like I would have a time frame of like 15 minutes each morning before the kids needed me, before the husband had to go to work, that I would go to the same spot at the same beach every single morning to watch the sunrise, and I would spend 10 minutes taking photos. And my photos always had like this feeling of like new for me. And it was like this beach wasn't very interesting. It was sand and water. There weren't trees. There weren't cool paths. There weren't like, you know, big sand dunes. Like it was just literally a little walkway, sand, beach for like miles either side. And so it was like, if this was the first time that I stepped foot on this beach, what would I be feeling? What can I see right now? I would go into this state of mind of like, I've never been here before. How would I take photos today with how I'm feeling right now? How would I take the photos? And that would help me to really see things and feel things as new, because I knew that like, even though I didn't know how, when I would be traveling every day, I'll be taking photos in somewhere that I've never been before. And how would I want to experience that? And it's so easy to, and I hear people talk about this a lot with photography. They're like, oh, I didn't take photos because I wanted to be present in the moment. And I'm like, for me, taking photos helps me become present, because I get to really feel into like my senses when I'm taking photos. I'm like, I've never been here before. What can I see? What can I smell? What can I touch? What can I hear? All of these things. And I take photos from that space. And that's what I've started to tap into now, is like, again, is like, because that was one of the biggest things that was making me sad, was like, I'm not going to new places. And like things start to become routine and boring and things. So it's like, yeah, if I go for a walk and I do the same walk every day while I'm in lockdown, it's like, how would I be walking if I'd never walked this track before? What could I see?
So
what can
good.
like you see so many more details that you would never have noticed before, because it was just like something that you've already seen. You don't need to pay attention to it. So yeah.
Love that.
And there's so many different aspects that you can focus on, right? Like one day you go on a walk, you just focus on the flowers. Next day you focus on the architecture. Next day you focus on like the animals that you see. Like there's so many different ways to actually see what you're seeing.
Yes.
But we're like always looking the same way. That I love what you said.
You have just absolutely inspired me and motivated me, Vivi. Like right now, I just like, oh my God, I can even just walk my street and see it a different way right now.
Yeah.
Like this is the thing. I love it. I can't wait to read your books. How many have you written?
I have written, I think 8 actually.
In 2021, people, she's written...
2021, I've written 1 book each month, and before I've written 1. So
wow,
a total of 8 books.
But 7 of those have been in 2021. That's incredible.
That
massive. Massive.
That's a lot of thinking about what, like, it actually, I thought I'm not gonna make it. Like, I'm being really honest. After the second book, I'm like, I'm done. This is torture. Why am I doing this? This is stupid. Several people told me like there aren't even that many topics around travel that you can write about. And I'm like, is that even true? Let's find out.
Yes.
Because you've traveled a lot. How many countries have you been to and in how many years?
I've been to 70 countries from the age that I was 5 to 24. So that's around 19 years.
In 1970, like 70.
Yeah. 70. But the most countries were between age 16 to 24.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I've got goosebumps. That is so good.
And one of the things that really connects to what you said before, Paula, is when I started traveling more by myself and just really going out and like exploring life, I always looked at going the hard way. Because one thing that I hear from older people a lot is like, oh, wisdom comes with age. And it pissed me off on the first time. I'm like, oh yeah, are you sure? Let me show you. So I thought, wisdom, years and years ago, yes, I get it. It came with age because you experienced more. Nowadays, it doesn't mean just because you're 80 years old that you actually experienced more about life.
So true.
So, other than like, in business, everyone always tells you, go with the easy way and let it be easy and let it be flowy. And that's awesome. But for my life, like personal life and travel, I'm like, go with the freaking hardest, because this is where you actually learn the most.
Oh,
amen.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
When you go up a mountain and you're just like exhausted, or you drive a road that's like tough, and you get there and it was a really, really tough way to get there, you actually experience it very differently and with much more gratitude than if you just drive by it, or if you just drive right to it and park your car and see it.
Exactly. Yes.
You are speaking my language, girlfriend. Wow.
It's so true.
Yeah.
The
wild roads.
It's just the perception.
Take the wild roads.
Take the wild roads, definitely.
You are definitely queen of taking the travel wild roads for sure.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Vivi, you're amazing.
Okay, so to wrap this podcast up, tell us, what is the wildest travel road that you have taken?
Oh, okay. So I I lived in Tanzania for 6 months, and I had a friend in Swaziland, which I think now is called Eswanti. And he said, why don't you come to one of the like biggest music festivals that we have in Africa? I'm like, well, I'm not really into music. I don't know. Like, I'm into music, but I'm not sure if I like these musics. I don't know anyone there. I don't know if I want to go. He's like, I'll pay for your ticket. I'm like, no. I'll road trip it. Now,
in Africa.
Of course you did.
to Swaziland, you have to pass like I think 4 countries to go there. Like I think it's longer than, if I look at the map, it's longer than from Darwin all the way down to like Melbourne.
Oh wow,
Oh,
that is a long,
yeah.
long way.
Not knowing anything, not knowing anyone, we're just like, okay, let's have an adventure. And I did that, especially because everyone told me, Vivi, you can't go to Africa by yourself. It's too dangerous. And everyone tried telling me it's too dangerous. It's not safe. It's not safe. Don't go. You're crazy. You're stupid.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, let me find out. I don't know if that's true, what you're saying. So I had to do it and experience it myself, and I found out it's actually not true at all. It's actually a freaking wild adventure. And then almost on the last day, we did a safari, and I love self-driving safaris just because you're in your own car or in your rental car, and you just get to stay and see the animals for as long as you want. And if you don't want to see that certain animal, you just keep going. Now that day, we were looking for leopards. I love leopards, my favorite animals. I really wanted to see a leopard. So we went from the first moment the gate opened, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. when the gate closes, when you have to get out of the national park. We were in that national park looking for leopards. Like, I had an obsession with leopards. Now, there was only one problem, is that we went the wild roads, literally the little tiny gravel roads where you're allowed to drive like 30 kilometers an hour. And we kind of pushed ourselves so much that we ended up at 5:30. We still had 60 kilometers to go on a gravel road. And
Oops.
as we're like, you're not allowed to drive faster. If anyone catches you, you get like really big fines because, well, animals are crossing. You don't want to have an accident with the animal. I'm like, okay, we just have to go. We're just gonna make it work, whatever. Now I'm starting to drive a little faster, and this elephant just like walks right in front of our car. I'm like, great. I love seeing elephants, but buddy, right now it's not the right time. Thanks for hanging out. Well, the only problem was elephant buddy didn't show up by himself. He brought his whole family. And an elephant easily has like 10, 15, 20, I don't know how many elephants. Now they started crossing one by one in front of our car, and I'm just like,
taking their time.
It's been all elephant-y.
Yeah.
go. Like, this is beautiful, but I do not have time for this right now.
Oh.
Mother passes, and her 2 little baby elephants are just like playing her around their trunk all over the place. It's
Bloody
like,
kids.
Watch. And I'm like, I don't have time. Like, I really need to go around now. We're not going to make it. So I drive around, and I kind of got a little close to the elephants, and the mother was furious. She's like stomping, blowing air, like making wild noises, and starts running after us. And I'm like, I'm sorry, 30 kilometers an hour, but I cannot obey this rule right now because otherwise we're not going to make it out here.
Oh my
That's together just went off, and the elephant tried running after us, but we were a tiny bit faster. So.
Oh my god!
Far out. How fast can they run?
I don't know, but they're pretty fast.
Oh my god!
Like, with their big bodies.
Yeah.
Like at a car, like they can break cars. Like they can be dangerous.
Wow.
Did you get out? Like, but
Yeah, we made it like on the minute.
oh
Wow. Wow. That's manifesting right
nearly
there.
got trampled by an elephant, but you made it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like
the
a whole
worst part
herd.
was we never ended up seeing the leopard, but
Oh. And any other time you would have seen a family of elephants and just spent the hour just loving them and looking at their behavior. This time it's just like, get out of the way.
yeah, you see how your experience can be completely different.
Yes.
Yeah, circumstance is everything. Hey, that's actually something that, yeah, we said a lot when we traveled, is that, you know, you'd hear people talk about certain places. Oh, this place is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And other people go, oh, this place isn't so great. And like your experience that you have can be so dependent on the weather, on like your mood, on time frame, on so many different things. So
So true.
Yeah.
Wow. What an experience, man.
Oh, it was so awesome having you on, baby. This was amazing.
Yes. Yes. We'll have to do it again. I want to hear some more.
Yes, please. So where can we find you, Vivi, on the socials? Where can people find you?
You can find me on socials at Instagram at Vivi Wilds, Facebook, Vivi Wilds. And what else do I have? I have a podcast that's called Explore to Evolve. Paula was on there as well.
I was. It's a great episode. Definitely go check that out.
Of course it is.
Also, your books on Amazon as well.
I do have all of my books on Amazon. Just type in my name and you'll find me.
Beautiful.
Or the socials and you can find them there.
Yeah.
We'll put the links in the show notes as well, so you can check her out. Thank you so much, beautiful one. You're amazing, you're wild, and you're free. I love that. You've been amazing.
I love both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wild Rose! Wild Rose! Wild Rose!